Good evening. Tonight, musical royalty. A man who's been described as the Scouse Springsteen and who wrote a song that made John Peel cry. This year, it's the 20th anniversary of that song. The song is Does This Train Stop on Merseyside? Ian Prowse, good evening.
Hello, mate.
How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. I've recently had a bit of a virus, but that was last week, and it's a new week this week. So onwards.
Okay. As well as Ian, we have another Ian, Ian Whitty. They know each other, by the way. He's also been a big part of the Merseyside music scene. He was a roadie for the band Dev School. Evening, Ian.
Good evening, everyone.
And we'll talk about something else that makes up the cultural identity of the region, football, and that is because this is Read All Over YouTube, which is the YouTube version of the Liverpool fanzine Read All Over the Land. The longest lasting and the only surviving Liverpool fanzine, Read All Over the Land. It's been going for 30 years. The editor is John Pearman. Good evening, John.
Good evening.
Latest edition is out now. What are the highlights?
Well, I don't know really. The thing about this one, it was difficult to do because it's all sort of, the time this came out, it was out of date because we were playing a game every other day or so, it seemed.
Yeah.
And it was hard work keeping pace with it, but we got there in the end. So yeah, I think one of the highlights is the death of the toffee lady, which is in there by Sharpie the Sharp as he goes.
Yeah.
And that's all about the derby, shall we call it? The not so friendly derby.
Not so friendly anymore, derby. Yeah, games were coming thick and fast. They're nothing at the weekend. Were you glad of the break?
I certainly was. I actually went on the garden and also went shopping. I mean, that's always a ball of fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Tomorrow night, back to business. PSG, that one's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah, very tough. But I'm at this very moment in time, I've only got one interest, and that's the Premier League. I want that so bad it's almost hurting me.
Well, whatever happens, John, we're in one final already. We're flying in the Premier League and the European Cup. The only thing that could stop us now is World War III.
Yeah, well, I've been listening to Trump, Zelensky, and Starmer today, so it could happen.
Well, anything could happen when America and Canada are enemies and Britain and France are friends. I mean, we're in a bizarro world, aren't we? Ian Prowse.
The odds are shortening anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Ian Prowse, as a Tranmere fan, how are you feeling about Liverpool's current form?
Well, everything to do with being a Tranmere fan is just depressing. So, so the fact that just across the river, Liverpool are in such sparkling form is nice light relief. If you get to watch them, and I'm one of those people who's of the opinion that Mohamed Salah is the greatest player you've ever had. People, and I think they'll start to say that when he's not there anymore. I don't think he's getting his just desserts right now, but he is. He's the best player you've ever had. Yeah. I honestly believe that as well. And one of the reasons I think is because he doesn't get injured, does he, Mohamed Salah? Do you know what I mean? He managed to avoid injury. There's something special about him.
Yeah.
And so it's lovely that the City's doing so well. I actually went to the derby, by the way. A friend of mine said, "Do you want to go and see Goodison for one last time?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And I was in the Gladys Street end. So, my God, they're angry, aren't they? Jesus.
Yeah. There is a little bit of bitterness in there, yeah.
Well, all my best friends and all of my family are all Blues. So, I'm of that generation whereby I'd go and watch games with them, with the family when I was younger at Goodison. I'd go and watch Liverpool a lot, and I'd go and watch Tranmere on the Friday night. So, it was one of those things that people used to do, didn't they? They just go and watch any game of football. So I'm very familiar with all three clubs, really.
20th anniversary of your song, Does This Train Stop on Merseyside? Tell us about the inspiration for the song, because there's a bit of a story, isn't there?
Yeah. I guess really that there was a song in there always waiting to come out. This is this city is one of the very few places, certainly in the UK, that people can write about and get away with it. Nobody's going to write a song about Nottingham, are they? And and with such, in the way the Americans can do it, you can write
Yeah, I
about
don't
New
think Paper Lace actually wrote any songs. I think, aren't they the only name to come out of Nottingham? But anyway, let's not knock Nottingham.
Not be
Otherwise,
good, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but so the song, it's almost certainly to do with the Irish influence on the city. That there's a lot of places in Ireland where there's songs about them, and America is the same. And Liverpool's about the only place in England that can sustain that. So I think there was always a song in there waiting to come out. But the straw that broke the camel's back was I just got my first email address. At the turn of the century. And one of the very first emails I got was like one of those round robins, and it was telling the story of the wonderful hokum ghost story of William James Mackenzie. The pyramid tomb on Rodney Street in the old Scottish graveyard. Have you anybody from the city who's ever walked past it has always seen it and gone, well, it's a really strange thing, isn't it? And obviously, if you've heard the story, the wonderful ghost story about the devil and everything, and I just read that email about what happened to William James Mackenzie, and within half an hour, a whole song about the city had poured out of me. So that must have been the thing in the back of my head, which is kind of the levee broke and outpoured this whole song. And it's not, it's most definitely not a professional Scouse. Isn't this the best city going song? Because there's millions of people die in the song.
Well, the slave trade's in it. I mean, yeah.
Slave trade, famine, everything. So, but yet it still is a celebration of the city, and if you listen to it, it's there's a big anthemic euphoria underpinning the song as well, despite the fact that I refer to all of these momentous things that have happened in the city, which are both good and bad.
Yeah, art comes out of repressed societies, doesn't it? It seems, historically, wherever it is.
Yeah, it does. There's no two ways about that. I think, where the people in pain produce great art, and you can hear when people are making art and they haven't experienced pain. You can hear it. It's not because it just doesn't have the same edge and bite, and they haven't reached into themselves. They're doing it as an exercise, whereas I can hear, in, my favorite artists, they've got to write songs. They've got to express themselves in that way. It's not just to be, just for fame or for money or to be able to cop off, with the opposite sex or whatever it is. It's because you've got to get it out, and I've definitely had a lifetime of that. So.
How did you find out that the song made John Peel cry?
Oh, this is 2003, something like that, when I'd written it and we'd recorded it, but we couldn't get arrested. My first band, Pele, we got signed to Polydor, and we'd done well enough in the 90s and had made some money and had a big publishing deal and all of that, and then that kind of ground to a halt, and I set up a new band in Amsterdam, but we couldn't get arrested. I couldn't get a record deal. And it wasn't that we didn't have any good songs, because we had some really strong songs which we continue to play to this day, but it was just the industry was changing. The forerunners of Spotify and X Factor were coming in. Music was becoming free for the first time ever, and there was also this, the whole thing whereby you got a record deal by entering a competition on the telly was becoming a thing, which meant that if you were over 30 in a short time, you were, it was viewed that you were too old for the music industry, so you wouldn't get a deal or anything. So I was really, really struggling. And then I'd written "Does This Train Stop on Merseyside?" and that hadn't changed the tide or anything. We'd take it round, and people had we couldn't get it over the line, and to get a deal. And I'll never forget. I was at a very low ebb, to be honest with you. I don't know if it was depression so much, but it was certainly like a profound malaise of I don't know what to do next to get this band and these songs out there. And I was like all my eggs were in one broken down basket, because if I don't write songs and do this, I'm not me. So I'm facing an existential crisis as well of my life, And and at the height of all this, my partner, my long-term girlfriend, left me for a fella at work. So it was just like it'd gone from bad to worse. And the awful thing was she was in the band as well, and she was a really valuable member because she was young and good looking. We kind of maybe thought she'll be our ticket out of here. And so it was just like, and I'd said to her, I said, I'm not going to sack you because, you've got every right to be in this band and not be my partner. They're two separate things. So I tried to do the honourable thing about it. And we had a couple of shows coming up and I said to her, listen, we'll carry on in the band and everything, but please don't bring this new fella to the gig in Liverpool. And so we were doing the show and I could see him in the middle of the audience, big, tall, good-looking fucker. And my heart sank, and we finished the show. And to this day, she remains the only person I've ever sacked from any. She was gone.
That was a sacking offence by the sound of things, though. Yeah.
2 days later, I'm in my local pub, and I'm literally crying into my ale, because my band is now in tatters because she's gone. My personal life, my relationship, I'm brokenhearted and I'm weeping into my ale. And this guy comes into the pub and I knew his face because I'd seen him around, but we'd never spoken, he just had a familiar face. And he shouted across the bar to me. It was about 10:30 at night. And he said, "Hey, Prowsey." And I said, "Oh, what's that, mate?" And he said, "You've just been on Radio 1, the John Peel show. He's just played a song of yours, some song about a train." And he got really emotionally upset when he played the song. You could hear it in his voice cracking, And I just looked at this fella aghast because we couldn't get a deal. So there was no way it hadn't been released. We'd only recently recorded the song and there would have been only like one or two, CDR copies of it. So I was trying to, it was this door in my life had slammed shut, reducing me to, an emotional wreck. Dipsomaniac, and all of a sudden this other door just opened up in front of me magically, and I just walked through it, and within a few weeks we had a record deal again, and I was back in the game because Peel had picked up. And what it was a friend to the city, Phil Hayes, who used to run the Flying Picket venue. He'd made a little compilation of 20 brand new Liverpool songs, and somewhere he got all of our one. And he'd given it to Peel, and Peel had ignored 19 and just had this reaction to ours. And via this sliding doors moment and stroke of luck, I was back up and running and back inside the music industry after 10 years in the wilderness,
Brilliant.
So life works in strange ways sometimes, doesn't it?
So never give up. Never, ever give up. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen.
I just kept going. And I often say I feel like living embodiment of Aesop's fable, the tortoise and the hare. I just
kept plodding.
Yeah. So that song, essentially, it saved my bacon, I don't know where I'd be or how things would have panned out if I hadn't written it and Phil hadn't given it to Peely and all of that. So there you go.
If you're one of the few people watching this that hasn't heard the song, we will play it at the very end of tonight's broadcast. So don't worry, it is coming up if we've piqued your interest enough. But you've probably heard it anyway. Somebody who's definitely heard it is Ian Whitty. You were involved in the Liverpool music scene. You're wearing the T-shirt as well with Pele on it, which is obviously for Ian Prowse's band, as you're a fan as well. How did you get to be a roadie for Deaf School?
Good question. Basically, I'm mates with a guy called Ken Sesty. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm mates with a well-known guy called Ken Sesty. He's the manager of Deaf School, co-founder of Eric's.
Okay, in Matthew Street, yeah.
Yeah, and I was at a loose end about 18 months ago. A lot of stuff had happened. I wasn't working, and Ken just contacted me and said, "Do you want to do some driving for deaf school?" And I bit his hand off, you know. It was the first one was the Dublin Castle in Camden. Then he done a little gig near Brighton the next day, and the well-known Brighton supporter was there, Attila the stockbroker. What a great man he is.
Yeah.
Then Ken asked me again. So the last time we done it, we all got put up in the Hope Street Hotel, which was nice.
Right. So have your paths crossed in the music scene then? You and Ian Prowse.
He's my Devonshire agent.
Because you live in Devon, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, he's my he's my contact for getting me great gigs in Devon. Yeah,
Especially Totnes.
he's on 2%.
That much.
That's the first I've heard.
I'll have to check out venues in Chester and see if I can get 1%. You know,
Yeah, see what you can get.
Oh, you'll be there, all right. Alexander's.
I think I contacted Ian because when I was a kid, I used to go. My mum and dad and my auntie and uncle used to take me to a place called Totnes in South Devon, a really ancient town. And I always wanted to go back there with my music, you know, because I had such wonderful memories of it. Hot, you know, summer days back in the 70s. And I was I need to go back to Totnes, but I want to play there. And I didn't really know how I went about that. And word got back to Ian, I think, because he lives in the town, that there was a Liverpool musician who wanted to play, and he got in touch with me. And it basically, I owe any time I've ever played there down to Ian, because he facilitated it. He got in touch with a brilliant venue there called the Barrel Ballroom. And now I think, how many times have we done it now, E? Is it 4?
4, yeah.
Yeah, 4. And I'll always go back. And it's a wonderful venue. And the last few times have been packed out. We've had brilliant nights. And it's its own, you know, it's its own thing now, outside of me just wanting to go to, you know, remember what it was like when I was a kid. And but it wouldn't have happened without Ian.
Oh, well done, Ian.
Thanks.
And John
appreciate
Pearman, you've had one of Ian's songs played for you at Anfield.
Yes, we got married. I've been with Mary for over 25 years, and then last year when we were on holiday, we were sitting in a bar in Zante, and this bar was pretty good. It was called Fever, and I'm drinking a Matarks, a large one, and it's Mary just turned around to me and says, "Should we get married?" Well, I nearly spilt the drink. But if it was a bit pricey.
It was so sudden. Yeah, such a sudden thing. Yeah.
And I said, well, okay, yes. And then we went back to the hotel, which was about a 20-yard walk. And all of a sudden I was going through the guest list and all the rest of it, which would include Mr. Mack. And following day, I thought, right, see what Mary thinks about it. She never mentioned it. I thought, I know, she'd had a few. It was just something she'd forgotten about. Then later on that night, we're sitting in a restaurant near the sea, and she said, I remember what I said, you know. And I thought, oh, thank God for that. I thought, you know, I just thought it was one of these things. So anyway, yeah, we ended up getting married on August the 21st. And the following home game, George played Johnny and Marie, and for me, and yeah, of course you know George, and it's I think it's a fantastic. I think it's a real good old rock and roll song, and I think brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I don't know, I'll ask you that. Is there a little bit of Chuck Berry in there with the go Johnny go?
Yeah, well, it's a Liverpool classic, isn't it? It's an old Phil Jones song. It's 3 chords, so you're absolutely right. It is a classic rock and roll Saturday night Liverpool song, and it's a working class anthem, isn't it? As well, you know, it's about ordinary people, And I mean, when we made that album with that song on, it's a Compañeros album, 2015. We'd had My Name is Desi Warren on it, and You Can't Win 'Em All, Mum, and lots of other songs that I'd unearthed, which had been forgotten about, down the years. And everybody, we did it all, and it went really well. And the authors of the songs all got in touch to say how much they really enjoyed it, apart from Phil, who said he thought it was a load of rubbish.
Oh. Well, sometimes that's the compliment, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it was just
maybe a little bit of jealousy.
I play it more people than you do these days, so I think you got a cob on with me. But yeah, those songs are like just gold dust, because I often think, I play my guitar all day long, and you think, God, these gems can be hidden behind 3 chords. It's a form of magic to me, it's songwriting, because I have no idea. The songs that I've written along the years, people might say, how did you come up with that one? I have no idea. It just arrived by magic. And if I tried to do it again now, I wouldn't be able to. And so it's a mystery to me, songwriting. And long may it continue to be so.
Has it evolved? Has the process of writing songs evolved through the years? Because because we all change as we grow older and a bit more wiser or otherwise, and so your approach to life can change. Has that changed your songwriting and the subjects you choose?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you've got to talk about your life as it stands in the present. So if I became a father late on in my life, and so a lot of songs burst out of me when our Rosie was born, because it wasn't an experience I thought I was ever going to have. And then all of a sudden she's here, and it's blowing your mind, and you can't believe how much you love them. And so she was a muse to me. I got lots of songs out of that. But if there's something going on in the world, whether it be political or a feeling, you got to write about that. Or something's going on in your own life as an older person. You can't write songs from the same perspective as when you were 22, So you've got to write to your age as you go along, and for the audience to take that journey with you, and that's always been my philosophy with writing songs, that I am writing for how my world is now. And if I do that, then hopefully it will cast some light onto how your world is now. And we can enjoy it together,
Make the connection. Yeah.
I actually said to Graham today, I said, I can't walk down North John Street now with the same feelings I did 20 years ago. Because of the Ballad of North John Street. I now look at places and I thought, yeah, I've seen that in the video. Yeah, that. It's just brilliant.
Do you know what? It's just an honour, to write something like the Ballad of North John Street. Yeah. And for it to become like one of my, and this is one of my later life songs, and for so many people to love it, it's just an honour. And I don't understand where it came from, the song. It just came. And if I sit and think about it, I do my own head in, because you're always obviously going, I wish I could do it again now, but you can't. You have to wait for the song to come along and tap you on the shoulder and say, I'm here now. Which is a weird bloody way to live your life, isn't it? and a weird way to make a living and earn money. You're the slave to this inexplicable thing. Now, my landlady doesn't care about that. She wants the bloody money every month. And I can't say to her, listen, I've got writer's block. She just swing it out on the streets. So it's a funny life to live. You've got to be thick-skinned with it and a bit robust, and realize that you're going to be going up and down with the whole damned experience and journey of it. And thankfully, I'm quite used to it now. But I've had times in my career where I've had my head in my hands going, well, what the hell's going to happen next? It's a funny world.
Ian Whitty, hanging out with musicians, has that changed you, do you think?
It's not something I do habitually, by the way. But it's only something that's happened to me the last few years. I've made friends with Ian, Ken, And I've known a few people in my past who've gone on to good things in music. When I done my apprenticeship in Kirby at the Hygiena, I was mates with a lad who went on to be the drummer for Frankie,
Oh,
Peter Gill.
really? Right.
And he was such a nice lad. And one day you sat down watching Top of the Pops 12 months later. I know him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Liverpool, though, I think, and Merseyside, because so many. I think somebody once said there's more hits come out of I don't know how they define the region out of that area than anywhere else in the world, even like Memphis and Detroit and that. I think it compares. It's so you're going to meet people who have been here, there, and everywhere.
It's true. It's true.
corners.
Liverpool has had all of these hits for such a, it's a small place, so it's just punching above its weight. It's fun, and the other curious thing is about it is when the music industry collapsed, which it did at the turn of the century, because music essentially became free, and people didn't go into record shops and buy records, so that meant that there was no record deals anymore, because if people aren't buying lots and hundreds of thousands of albums, then there's no money to give advances to bands. Now that meant that in all the other cities in the country, the whole infrastructure around this collapsed, because none of us know what's number one in the charts now. It doesn't. That whole culture has passed into antiquity, hasn't it? But in Liverpool, there's 5 new bands formed on every street every week, and it's as vibrant and as full on as ever. So the music industry didn't collapse in Liverpool. I'm in the middle of it. I live right in the city centre as well. So it's going on all of the time. The music economy is still massive, and lots of other musicians come into the city from other parts of the UK to be part of the music economy. Keyboard players and drummers, they all come to Liverpool to try and make it now. So it's an amazing thing. It's not. It's just, I know for a fact. So I run a club out of the Cavern on a Monday evening for new artists and songwriters and everything, and bands and poets. And people come in from all over the country, and they say there's nothing like this in even Manchester. There's nothing like this in Glasgow or Nottingham. Let's slag Nottingham again.
I said to Graham earlier, we have a chat earlier on, and I said the thing about people like yourself from Liverpool, and going right back when you could listen to the Beatles when they were doing not the pop stuff that they had to do for the obvious reasons, but when they wrote songs about Liverpool, they don't write it with a pen. They write it with the heart and the soul, and that's you can hear that. I mean, a song that we were talking about today was John Lennon singing "Nowhere Man," and that was in 1966 and
65. It was
65, and you just thought, how's he doing this? I mean, I've got no talent at all in music, but I love rock and roll, and the Chuck Berry type stuff and all the rest of it. And but the man who, if you like, he did actually change my life. He influenced my life, was Bob Dylan, because I listened to him singing songs in the 60s, and I thought, what the hell's this? It's Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, and I think, this isn't going to be a number one. No one's going to buy that. But it's a song, it's sensational stuff, and that's what I then started thinking. There's got to be a meaning in your music, and I know you've got a lot of the Irish influence in what you do, and I love Irish music even to this day. I grew up on. I made myself grow up on it. I got into it in the mid '60s, and again, I just think fantastic. Yeah, especially the way they do folk music, and a lot of the songs that we sing at football have originated from the local pop scene, and that's fantastic. Yeah, or the rock scene, not the pop scene.
Yeah, so, I think music is if the 3 basics are like shelter, warmth, and food, shelter, oxygen, to just the bare minimum to stay alive. Put music in there for me. Music is an absolute essential and it saves people's lives, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
No matter how we consume it, and we're not really bothered about the charts anymore. The position of music in the society and in communities is as prevalent and as powerful as it's ever been. So you're talking about people like Lennon or Dylan. These are conviction singers, aren't they?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that is right down my street. You know, I came into this having seen the Jam at the Liverpool Empire. You know, and they were like they wanted to change the world. You know, the Jam and the Clash and all of that.
Yeah.
Sort of bands. It was just conviction that they didn't sing, you know, with anything other than their full soul and heart. I'm angry, I'm upset, the world is difficult and confusing, and I want to change it for the better with this music.
Yeah.
And that's where I came in, you know. So I never give anything less than 100% on the stage because A, it's an honor, and B, I can't help myself. Our guitar player, my cousin Johnny, says, even in rehearsals, just calm down. There's only the band.
Is there a gig that stands out as truly unforgettable?
Oh, there's been hundreds of them because I've played so many. I think when we played Glastonbury in 2008, that was amazing because we didn't even know if, you know, people would show up and see us. I thought they'd forgotten me from the Pele era, but they hadn't. The tent was full and they loved it. So I always remember that. When we played the 100 Club, that's always just packed and exciting. I played the London Palladium last year, opening up for Elvis, and that was amazing. That was the only time my dad's ever shown any interest in my career. You played the London Palladium, aren't you, lad? I said, I played the Hammersmith Odeon, and I played the Arena, and I played all over
Glastonbury.
You never mentioned it, Father. Not the London Palladium, though, is it?
Suddenly some credibility.
The Beatles and the Stones have played there, so now you have. You know.
Yeah.
Well, the mad thing was I got there. Because my dad had this reaction to me playing at the London Palladium, it really kind of meant something to him, and he's never mentioned anything before. My kind of bottle went when I got there, and then when I was setting up my merch, and somebody came up and said, "Would you like to come and see under the stage where Des O'Connor's buried?" We went down these stairs, and under the stage, yeah, Des O'Connor and Bruce Forsyth are buried under the stage, and you can see there's a hole, the wall. They're set into the wall, their earthly remains, and you can see it. So,
well, that shows you the difference between show business and civilian people's life. Because who else would want to get buried at work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, in answer to the question, there's been
that's brilliant.
shows down the years, you know, and here in Liverpool, it's just we do a big Christmas show every year, you know, and it's always the best night we've ever played, you know. And because with my show, it's not just you get a little bit of everything. You'll get joy, you'll get sorrow, you'll get a bit of rabble rousing, you'll get a bit of fun, and you'll just get the joy of being alive. You know, as Joe Strummer used to say, "Don't forget you're alive." You know,
you saw Ian play on an Elvis Costello show, didn't you, John? And you say Ian stole that one.
Oh, I thought you did. Yeah, that was in Blackpool just before the COVID.
The Opera House.
Yeah, and Mary and I went over, and we went, and I thought this is fantastic. And I can honestly say now, when you mentioned John Pearman Graham, when you played "Does This Train Stop on Merseyside," I stood up, and there were tears coming down.
Oh, mate, thank you.
And I walked out at the end of the show, and I've got this here, and it's got a sign to Red All Over the Line land. Cheers, Ian P. So,
oh, thanks, mate. I look like the producer in that photograph, don't I? I've just realised.
I don't know. And Ian Whitty, is there a gig that stands out for you? Either one that you were involved with, that you were working on, or a gig you went to see that really affected you and moved you?
I'd say the best I've ever seen in my life. Mid-80s, early 80s in Liverpool. Elvis Costello. The one with the big wheel, the spinning wheel. And also, I've seen the Bunnymen at the Royal Horse a few times. You never have that again in your life. Such good sounds. when I was a young man.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it, how Liverpool has sustained this all through the years, from, well, it'd be before the 60s with the jazz scene, which is, the Cavern was a jazz club, wasn't it, originally? And then all the way through, and then that late 70s thing with the Erics thing, and then everything, and then it came again, and then even with Cream and on all the different things to do with Liverpool. I suppose the ingredients are perfect. You've got an oppressed people made up of Welsh and Irish immigrants. So you've got the poets and the singers. It's just like the perfect combination of the three. It's like the Holy Trinity, isn't it, that brings it all together? Yeah.
Well, there's only one country in the whole world with a musical instrument as its national symbol.
That's the Irish, yeah, with the harp, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only country. So musicality is just, it's right inside the blood of the people of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it was a funny thing because when I was younger, John was talking about Irish music before. And when I was younger, I always felt drawn to it. There was a kind of a melancholy where I would feel when I heard some of it, but it was also kind of joyful at exactly the same time. So I don't know what it was, but if you'd have said to me, what's your ethnicity or whatever, I'm from Northern England. I didn't even consider, my mum and dad had never mentioned anything about, your past. Everybody does their heritage now. So recently I did my DNA and I'm exactly half a Celt. So I felt it before I actually saw it written down on paper, which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
My brother did ours, and actually we're 40%. We're 40%. I don't know how to get the other 10%, so I can apply for a passport. But
yeah,
or 11%, yeah. But
yeah, and it's funny that you have these feelings inside you, but it kind of it's lovely as well, isn't it? But we are Liverpool is a result of the collision of all the tribes of the world being here in this space, like New York. All these places, there's always creativity pouring out of them, and there's little fragments, isn't there, of all of the cultures go into what's happening in the melting pot of the city, and that is why it is such a fabulous, and then it feeds off itself. It's such a fabulously musical place. It's curious actually because I'm the only one really out of all of us bands and songwriters who has overtly Celtic soul instruments or flavorings in their music.
Right.
A lot of the other bands they're much more like straightforward, like rock and roll or more guitars or whatever. I'm the only one who ever uses flutes and fiddles and stuff like that in my pop and rock music. You'd think there would be more, wouldn't you? But there isn't really. But it's it's an honour to come from here, isn't it? With the amount of amazing bands and singers, there's just so many.
Yeah. And you've had such a long career. Is there a moment when you thought, this is it, this is why I do this?
It's been, the last few years have been really lovely because when you're a kid and you start out, even though you've got a big record deal and everything, you've no idea if it's all going to work out. If this thing that you feel so desperately you want to do with your life, that it's actually going to happen for you. You know what I mean? And whether you're going to get in the charts and you're going to be able to keep it up and write more songs and all of that. So you live in fear, really, that it's going to be taken away from you, and you're not going to be able to do your life's calling. And then as you get older and older, and certainly in the past 5 years for me, and I've been probably at my most successful, and you kind of relax and you go, oh, it's okay. Of course I can do it. I'm of a certain, I know what I'm doing. People like it. You've written some really good songs. You can go on, try and write some more, and you enjoy it more then because the fear's gone now.
Yeah.
And you just play, and you're going to do some shows, and people are going to be there, and if you release a record, people are going to buy it and all of that. So the fear's gone. So these days, I appreciate it and enjoy it twice as much as I did when I was young.
Wow. Do you ever look back and go, I wish I'd enjoyed it more and didn't stress so much when you were younger?
Yeah, for sure. You know, if somebody says to me, "What was it like being in Pele?" You know, and you had this, and you had everything that you could have, you got a major record deal, and my first thought is always like, the band members were so bloody ungrateful. You know, you got everything you wanted in the best studios, best producers. You're on the radio, you're on the telly, and all that. All I have, my overriding memory is that they're just moaning all the bloody time. You know what I mean? It's just like, Jesus Christ! And they would challenge me, you know. And I was like, but it's my songs, it's my band, and I've set it up the way it is. You go and do yours if you want that. So that's when you're a kid, you have to go through all of that. You know, you're stuck in the back of a van for 5 years together. I don't have to put up with any of that crap anymore. So it's a joy nowadays.
We've talked about the 60s, and John, you've got a tribute coming up with Red All Over the Land to a high point in the 60s, 1965. This is the Red All Over the Land article for it. The bootleg beat Leeds, which is the 1965 Cup final, the first time that Liverpool won the FA Cup. The 60th anniversary is on the 1st of May. Going to be a big night right in the centre of Liverpool, isn't it, John?
Yeah, we've got Reds, which is on Exchange Street, and we unfortunately there's only a couple of the members of the team still with us. So whether we can actually get one of the players to come along, I don't know. But we've got John Aldridge coming, who's a local lad, played in
a final, yeah,
won a medal, won a cup winners medal. We've got him coming. We've got a guy who's got more memorabilia about the FA Cup of 1965 than the Liverpool Museum, Adrian Killen. We've got David Fairclough coming along, who we will not be calling Super Sub because I don't think that's a fair...
We're not just going to bring him in at the end. We're going to actually have him there from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Hold a card up, yeah. The idea is to try and replicate the occasion. So it's going to be a bit nostalgic, to say the least. And we're just hoping it's going to be a good night. And we want to try and raise some money for the local causes. We're seeing how many former players. We've got quite a few of the people who didn't actually play in the first team coming along at the time, but they went down to Wembley. I went down to Wembley in 1965, so there's not many of us left, but it's going to be. It should be a good night, and I know Ian unfortunately lives down in Devon. Well, not unfortunately lives down in Devon, but if he wants to come up, we can accommodate him. And Ian, if you want to drop in,
well, that's how I got my name that game.
No, how?
Yeah, well, there you go.
From Ian St John or Ian Callaghan, because there were two Ians in that side.
No, who scored the winner with his head?
Okay.
Oh yes. But who laid the goal on? We don't call them assists. We didn't call them assists in them days.
And I was
made it. Yeah.
I was doing an interview once up Radio City Tower, and I got into the lift, and he was there. And I just, oh God, I've got to tell him, you know. And I said, "Oh, Mr. St. John, I've always wanted to meet you. My dad called me after you. You know, I'm a musician. I've just been doing an interview." And he just looked at me and went, "You and everyone else."
Which is exactly what you wanted him to say, though, really.
He didn't go, "Oh, did you, lad? Brilliant, nice one." He just went, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
So it was a genuine response, which is all you want from him.
It was a dour Scots to the end.
Too true. Yeah. I mean, when you're what is it? You're the what do they call it? The straight man with Jimmy Greaves. Yeah, you got this now, haven't you? You know. So, So I don't know. Were you around then, Ian?
No.
I was
St. Greaves. Because
I was also named after Ian St. John.
No.
The day I was born.
No.
9th of December 1961, Liverpool home to Plymouth Argyle, Division 2. Ian St. John scored the winner. I was born half an hour after the match finished. My dad went, yeah, Ian, that's it.
Fantastic.
But
I
that's
mean,
how
one went
important
there,
it is, because you were telling me, John. See, I was born in '64, so I have no memory of the '65 Cup final. For me, the biggest game in Liverpool, the Liverpool I remember was Rome in '77, and I once said to you, "So was '65 as big as '77?" And you said to me it was bigger, as if I was an idiot.
Yeah, well,
How
the
big was
thing
it,
was,
John?
in then nobody was interested in European cups. The fans couldn't travel. Basically you got into the European Cup. The English FA actually frowned upon it. They weren't that interested. They were interested in the league, and so the FA Cup was something that you went to Wembley. You got to remember. I lived at that time. I lived in the Midlands. I lived in Leicestershire, and to go to London was an occasion. You didn't go to London then, not as a teenager. You were just beginning to be able to go to London. Blimey, if I went to Leicester or Nottingham, it was a night out. It was a big occasion.
See, something good about Nottingham has come out of the show at last. Thank you.
I never
Yeah.
said anything good
Who
about
says we're
Nottingham.
not balanced? Oh, okay.
I can say what I like at the moment because the wife's not in, and they're
Okay.
all Forest fans. But no, to go to the cup final was every football fan's dream, and no matter who you supported, whether you were in the fourth division as it was then, or the first division as it was then, your team, the one dream was to go to Wembley in the cup final, and Liverpool had never won it. Leeds had never won it. And strangely enough, no team beginning with the letter L had ever won it. So it was something, we used to sit there and watch cup finals on the TV. And then as kids, we'd go out on the green outside the house and replay them and always got a different result. And it was fun. The cup final was such an occasion. And teams would come home, the homecoming, not just the winners, but the losers would get 100,000 people.
I know. I was in '71. I was outside St George's Hall. Yeah, and that was like we'd won it. And we hadn't. Yeah.
I went to '73 outside St George's Hall after the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, John: would you say that that the '65 Cup final was more important than Istanbul? Then I was
at the time, yes. But the thing about Istanbul, of course, it's well, Graham was there. I mean, I remember him he was doing a radio show, and he actually was on air from Istanbul, because I don't think your boss didn't know you'd actually gone, did he? Yeah. So that would be more memorable than cup finals. But no, Istanbul was just a fantastic occasion. But going back to 65, it was there was 100,000 people in Wembley, and you'd got a lot of pomp and circumstances type stuff going on. They had the marching band before the game playing things like Ilkley Moor by Tap for Leeds fans, or She's a Lassie from Lancashire, and expecting the Liverpool fans to join in. Well, there's absolutely no chance. So the Liverpool fans were singing all their songs, and they drowned out the community singing. So that was that.
But Ian's question was, John, was it bigger? Was '65 Cup final bigger than Istanbul?
To me, yes, yeah. Wow. Because it was the first time. We'd already. Istanbul was the fifth time we'd won the European Cup, and we kept it, of course. So I don't know whether Ian went to it.
I was singing for the fans before the game, so the club took me out.
Did they?
Yeah.
Wow. What, in the fan zone?
Yeah, and it was.
You weren't on that stage, were you?
I was. Yeah, I was the first act on. And it was crazy, wasn't it? Because it was actually cold.
It was. Yeah. Our bus actually didn't get. Our bus was in the traffic jam, so we only got there not long before the kickoff. Actually, so we missed all of that. But it was quite cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fan zone had filled up, and it was people from everywhere. And if we look behind us, we could see like 3 red streams coming across, the barren,
the wasteland.
And it was just the maddest thing you'd ever seen in your life. All carrying ale,
Oh yeah, yeah.
towards us. And they put me on first. I said, what the hell am I going to do? And somebody said to me, I've got a song called You're a Phony. And somebody said, play You're a Phony, but dedicate it to Jose Mourinho and everybody will be on side, So I went on, started with that. And then all the other bands from Liverpool who were playing went on, and it just descended into madness. And they had to just abandon the whole thing, say, "Oh, we might as well all go in the ground now." And then, of course, so it was already mayhem before the game, which was mayhem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we actually we'd flown into a military airport on the
Yeah.
with the club. And gone back across the Bosphorus. And then when the game finished, they took us back. And we landed back in Liverpool at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was up and out into the city centre at 1 o'clock waiting for the homecoming thing. So it was just the most intense, time. And just, that game as well. You've never seen anything like that, have you? So,
No, but
was
Ian Whitty. Were you there, Ian?
I wasn't, but I was in the next best place, the supporters club on Breck Road.
Oh,
right.
Wow! Bet it was good in there.
I was smoking in those days. I was smoking ciggies in those days. Half time, went out for a ciggy, and the kids were crying, and some cars were going past, Everton colours everywhere, beeping their horns. They were made up. And I remember saying to this girl, "Don't worry, love, it's only half time." I didn't even believe it myself, but I said it to her. And after the match, we ended up. There was just a procession into town. Everyone ended up. You couldn't get near a pub. They were all shocking. But I think we got back to my mate's house in Old Swan about 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I had to get a lift to get back down here.
I'm standing in Istanbul airport, the same airport as I think you went from. It was the military one, and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden you can hear this. Ring of Fire song started up, and I look around, and John Aldridge is on a table dancing and walking through the other door.
In this tent that they'd put up, yeah.
And walking through the other doors, Graham and his wife. So, and it's just, because you said to me, I thought they were singing about you.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I said that. I thought they were all cheering because John Pearman was arriving. It was a different John. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
and it was just fantastic, but
it was something special. Yeah,
but going on to when we won it against Spurs, but you're on about being in the Liverpool Supporters Club. I was sitting outside the Sandham, watching it on the screen, just watching it because there was no room there. And thing I can always remember about that was how quick the Liverpoolians are to see a pound sign. And Divock Origi scored that goal. And the next thing is, I've gone down Breck Road, Oakfield Road, shouting and cheering, and come back to where I'd left my bag, my coat, and everything else on the floor in the street. And there was a van pulled up, and these guys got out and they were selling Liverpool European Champions 2019 already. That was like the game was still going on, and they were selling, and people were giving them the tenner or whatever it was. I thought, I hope Spurs don't.
It's a city of contradictions because for such a socialist city, it is full of entrepreneurs. Going back to Mind Your Car, Mister, and it's got that going as well. It has got that going.
But it was fantastic. But but the music is the music and football are the soul of the city, and I love that thing that's on St George's Hall about the music, and music unites, and it does. It brings everyone together. And I'm going to be at the Liverpool Art School. It's on the 12th of April.
Good man.
Gentlemen there, and it should be a good night.
Where do we find out more about what you're up to, Ian? More live stuff, tour dates and stuff like that?
Ask Ian.
Yeah, I'm the easiest person in the world to both get hold of and see what I'm doing. It's where we start a tour this Friday in Stourbridge, and the tour does this train stop on Merseyside, comes home on April the 12th at the Arts Club, and we'll have our full 7-piece band out. We've got Fiona coming over from Ireland and playing with us. She only does special occasions, so this is one of them. I've got the best band of musicians, and it'll be, you know, the 20th anniversary coming home night for that song. We got Rob Vincent opening up for us, who's brilliant as well. So it's going to be a special Saturday night in Liverpool, and we will, until that roof has been blown off, we won't leave the stage.
Brilliant. Red All Over the Land is out now. It won't be on sale will it be on sale in Paris tomorrow night, John?
No.
But the return leg, yeah.
Brexit won't let us.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And Ian Whitty, have you got articles in this version? Because you've done stuff before in Red All Over the Land.
I've got to write something else soon.
There's something coming soon. So keep getting hold of Red All Over the Land. You can subscribe there, redallovertheland.com. You can see it there, or you can buy it at the match. Or your News from Nowhere in Bold Street is also on sale, isn't it, John? Is there anywhere I'm forgetting where this is available?
Sorry?
It's available. It's available when Liverpool are playing. It's available at the Clock Tower pub in Torquay. There's a lot of Scousers going there.
Is that where you'll be? Is that where you'll be, Ian? If anyone wants to meet you?
Oh yeah, of a weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't get the bus back of a midweek.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave you with the song that we've been talking about tonight. Does this train stop on Merseyside? This is the Amsterdam version. Yes, sorry, John, what were you going to say?
Can I just thank Ian for coming on, taking time? He's a busy man, and it's been a pleasure, a great pleasure to actually talk to you. I know it's not quite in person, it's the next best thing. And my good friend there, the Scouser, gone to Devon, and I love his little articles. They're quite funny. And he sent in a good picture of him and his brother at a recent trip, a very early trip to London, feeding pigeons. And that was in issue 309. So yeah, and thanks for that, and thanks to you, Graham, for tonight. It's been a real pleasure. Been different, fantastic, and thank you both.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks to everyone for making it so special tonight. It's been good.
Thank you.
policemen chat with folded arms, while people try and save their fellow friends. Say, hey,